Hello and welcome to Political and our first video of 2021. Just want to say quickly, I hope you all had a good New Year and Christmas. So much has happened over the last week. We've actually got a bit of catching up to do. So we've got a couple of stories here. Our friends in Poland are now leading the way in free speech laws. Only after being ruled a generation ago by a one-party communist state, how very quickly things change. And tensions have risen again in Minneapolis after a man was shot by police. Naturally, since he was black, protests began in the streets, but now that the body cam footage is showing the police were shot at first and acting in self-defense, those heavy blunt objects and eggs the protesters were throwing have appeared to have landed back on their face. So as always, if you do enjoy our content, please give us a subscribe, hit the like button, give us a comment down below, let us know what you think. So many plans for 2021, so many things we're going to be doing, really kind of diversifying the content and trying out new things. And so if anyone has any feedback on stuff we do, please do not hesitate to give us a comment down below and let us know what you think. So let's jump into this one.
Yeah, and we're going over to Minneapolis again for what seems like the 10th or 11th time in the last few months, right? I mean, it's almost as if like depriving the police of funding increases crime. So we've got an article here from Reuters. Minneapolis police shot and killed a man in an exchange of gunfire during a traffic stop in the southern part of the city late on Wednesday. That was last Wednesday. In the first killing by a member of the department since the death of George Floyd, authorities said. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension was called in to handle the investigation. Details about the identity, background, or race of the man who was shot were not immediately known. They are known now. Officers were conducting a traffic stop involving a felony suspect. Initial witness statements indicate the subject involved in this felony stop fired first at Minneapolis police officers, who then exchanged gunfire with the suspect. Minneapolis Police Chief Madaria Arredondo said in a press briefing later Wednesday. But the fact that the man opened fire on the police first and that we didn't know his race at the time didn't stop lefties from declaring it racist and problematic. So later, protesters gathered outside of a gas station near the shooting, and authorities had to urge them to avoid any destructive criminal behavior. What's wrong with them? Like, do they expect police officers to expose themselves to the danger and to take bullets in the name of not being racist? Like, what's wrong with them?
Well, I think what's happening again is if they really truly believe in this systemic racism and they believe that black people are being massacred in the streets on a daily basis by police, then they're really not doing much good for their cause by going out and protesting every single shooting that happens ever, because all that happens is the details emerge later on. And then you can clearly see in the cam footage on this one that the police released that the guy shot them first, which I don't understand this. Why would you do that? You're surrounded by like 10 police officers. They've boxed you in your car. They're just saying, put your hands up, put your hands up. You reach for your gun and shoot at them. What do you think is going to happen? It really is incredible, the kind of the mindset that's going through them. But, obviously the body cam footage comes out later on, and then now they just look like idiots because they're protesting a man who shot at police and got fired at, by police officers who were acting in self-defense. Like, I mean, he's not the victim here. He's the perpetrator.
Yeah, he's the criminal. He's the one who's caused it. He's the one who has shot at police. He could have killed police officers. He could have deprived how many families of policemen, of his own father, even say. It's utterly ridiculous. I don't understand how they can actively protest this. It almost seems as if they've just picked a side in a battlefield. They're not actually looking at it with any kind of nuance. They're not looking at it with any kind of desire to understand things. All they're doing is saying police bad, black people good, right? Like yeah. It's so simplistic. Boggles my mind, Giant.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's just an extension of identity politics, really, isn't it? And obviously, Absolutely. this is what happens when you abide by that ideology. You have these outliers. So we got this as well from from what's been happening in Poland, like I said at the start, really, really interesting because of the whole sort of Section 230 debate that's going on in America right now. So I just want to read you these few paragraphs from this. So the freedom of speech advocates across the West are celebrating a new piece of legislation being prepared by the Polish Ministry of Justice, which is designed to ensure the rights of social media users are respected. Justice Minister Zbigniew, oh my God, I practiced his name before I started.
Zbigniew
Ziobro emphasized that a social media user must have a feeling that their rights are protected. There cannot be censorship of expression. Freedom of speech and debate is the essence of democracy. An increasing number of posts are being removed by the social media companies and users are being met with bans or even account deletions. Usually, at that point, those users are at the mercy of the social media platforms and have limited options. And this is happening all over the world. While freedom of speech and expression are vital in democracies, social media is dominated by companies which can introduce their own guidelines. At the same time, these companies must respect the laws of the countries in which they operate. So the new regulations allow the Polish government to punish social media companies for violating the rights of users, which will be backed by the full power of the Polish judiciary. If the companies are found to be violating a user's rights and refuse to obey the court's ruling, they will be fined up to 2.2 million euros. So I think, I don't know, it's a really interesting approach. Certainly there is an issue with social media, but I mean, do you think this is the right approach? This is the way to go?
I do actually, and that might raise some eyebrows. So, I mean, the Polish government, I'm not huge fans of them. I don't think anyone really should be. They're the kind of people who are introducing LGBT-free zones and that sort of thing. And obviously, we don't agree with that. However, I kind of feel this falls under the same category as these protests in Minneapolis. Okay, there's going to be many left wingers who are calling foul on this and hating it because it's the Law and Justice Party who are going to benefit from this. But actually, what they're doing is safeguarding citizens' rights to freedom of expression. I mean, we saw in the American election, these social media companies actively overstepping their mark time and time again, censoring stories, curating stories. It was awful. And who made them the arbiters of what is acceptable and not? Okay, if they want to provide a platform for debate and expression, provide the platform, but don't try and police that to suit your own agenda. That's censorship, and that's why I think they did a good one here.
Yeah, it's like the minister says, freedom of speech and debate is the essence of democracy. And so when this is for me, there's certainly an issue. The issue is that these social media companies have, like say, like the de facto monopoly over discourse on the internet. Like probably 95% or whatever of sort of open conversations happen on social media, you would imagine, or something like that, right? And so you have this sort of weird situation where, 2 or 3 private companies get to decide the sort of rules of engagement of speech over the internet. So I'm reluctant to sort of then jump to this idea of, well, hold on, we should then say to these social media companies, you're not allowed to do this or that, because obviously they are private companies and they decide the rules themselves, what they do and what their own guidelines are. But at the same time, I think, there should be a kind of a more kind of like umbrella law that extends freedom of speech over to the internet as well. And then they need to then, I think, abide by some. There needs to be, like the minister said, the feeling that their rights are protected online. And I don't know exactly the intricacies of how you would do that law, because you don't want companies to be able to abuse that law as well, or governments to be able to abuse that law by saying, by basically censoring their own political opponents and stuff. But I think users should be able to go on Facebook or whatever, and they shouldn't have their posts removed purely for opinions, like if it's a political opinion, or things like spam, or harassment, obviously, yeah, they're fair game. Remove those things, right? If you want to, I think that's fine to have that as the part of your sort of what do you call it? The usage. Yeah, when you sign up to it, you agree to the terms. But for just expressing opinions, no, you shouldn't be able to do it. And we've seen that happening now. I think there was just like a Facebook group on that was removed called like Joe Biden is not my president or something. It had like over 1 million people on Facebook. This is the kind of law that would protect those kind of people in that group. But I don't think it should be too overreaching that you can start to just, sue people, whatever, for all sorts. The government can just start suing companies or whatever that basically they don't agree with, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the Facebook one there, the Facebook group, because I seem to remember quite a few people saying Donald Trump is not my president back in 2016.
Yeah.
And they were, like, there was no problem with that sort of thing. So I think a big thing is what leaves a bitter taste in conservative mouths is that that kind of unequal application. Like, okay, fair enough. If you're if the rule is you're denying who the president is, then apply it both ways. But that's clearly not the case, right? And of course, one prominent group that's been removed recently is the political group, isn't it, on Facebook? A high-flying community there, completely gone because we dared to express an opinion on the election results. But that shouldn't surprise anyone. We'll leave it there for today, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, do subscribe if you haven't already. Drop us a like if you like the content. And we will see you as the year goes on. We'll be with you for the whole of it.